Hey everybody, Mark here, TekStack. Happy to talk to you a little bit about a topic that comes up quite a bit with our customers. Most of our customers, say about 85–90% of them, are software or technology companies, so maybe VARs or IT implementers, MSPs, and they are just outgrowing the founder-led sales approach or owner-led sales approach. So they're just getting into the point where they want to scale the organization. They're investing in tools like ours. They're investing in new people. Really, the goal is to drive a little bit more value in the business, and ideally find increased value for exit. Right. So usually, an exit plan takes 3 or 4 years. You want to be able to show solid growth over a 3 or 4 year period. That growth and profitability. If you can get that, something called rule of 40, but if you can get that growth and profitability to hit a sum of 40, so for example, growth of 25% year over year with 15% EBITDA, 25 and 15 equals 40. Companies that achieve that rule of 40 marker are tend to be valued at a premium. According to McKinsey, now this is going back 2 years, but from Carta.com, the numbers seem to be holding true. But those valuations on revenue for companies that achieve rule of 40 are double that of the average performing in the cohort. So in making that transition from founder-led to a sales team, we quite often fall into certain traps. What this webinar or this recording is trying to help you with is, what are some of the things that as a founder you can do to essentially keep your eye on the ball without having to be on every single sales motion or sales cycle? Let's start with sales metrics. I think when you're founder-led sales, you could drive a lot of your business through kind of intuition, because you're in front of everything. You kind of get a sense. You might be going crazy and pulling your hair out, but you get a sense of what's kind of going on. You feel momentum, you feel a lack of momentum, and all that kind of stuff. But the minute you start stepping away from it, it's hard to get a read on what's going on. And probably more importantly, when somebody starts looking into your business in a couple of years, you want to show them that you are bulletproof. You want to show them that the business can operate without you, that you have the right operating systems in place in terms of processes and tools and insights to drive the business and scale the business forward. So the first thing you really want to put in is some sort of sales metric reporting, right? There's a lot you can kind of track. The metrics that we would recommend for technology companies, I would start with bookings, probably the most important. So bookings are really just contracted future revenue. So a booking might be $100,000 of managed services or subscription software, but that's not necessarily revenue. You can only recognize that over time, or it could be the $100,000 of the recurring line item plus $50,000 in services. Again, you can't recognize the services right up front. All bookings is a contract that we will be generating that amount of revenue over time. So on opportunities, like when you're tracking this stuff in a CRM system on your opportunity, you're going to want to have typically 2 types of amount fields. You're going to want to have the recurring revenue that this opportunity is generating, and specifically the ARR, so call it the first year's recurring revenue. The differentiation there, of course, is you've got a 3-year term on the opportunity. 3 years times $100,000 is $300,000. That's great, but you really want to track it as ARR. So what is my incremental each year? And that is 100. So the ARR versus total contract value. So in this example, the total contract value would be $300,000 plus whatever services you might have on that opportunity as well. Let's say $50,000 in services. So that's the single versus multi-year. And you want to track your bookings, your actual. Let's say, hypothetically, if you want to book $1.2 million in a new ARR, incremental ARR in a year, that's $100,000 a month. You want to compare your bookings for June. Did you hit 100,000 or not? And where are you year to date? You want to be able to build a forecast as well. So if say your actual year to date is $400,000, but I'm forecasting at the end of the month I'll be at 550, and compare that to the plan, which in this case, outside of seasonalities and all that kind of stuff. But in this simple example, let's say that would have been $600,000. So you generally want to get a sense of where your bookings are relative to your plan and how you're forecasting that out. Your booking will give you confidence in your hiring plan and your cash outlay, and it's really truly the measure of your business's performance on the sales end. The other metric you might want to have a look at, there's a debate over this one. I like it. It's called sales velocity. It's a quick gut check to tell you whether or not you're tracking or not, right? So what sales velocity tells you, so I'm going to do some quick math here. So if we, let's say, had a $1.2 million booking target over 365 days in the year, that means on the average day, I need to be booking $3,300, call it. So sales velocity tells you if you're hitting $3,300 a day or not. And what it does, it looks into the number of opportunities that you have open at any given time, multiplies that by the deal size, times your win rate, all over the average sales cycle length. So that will give you your sales velocity. So if your target is 3,300, but you're at 1,200, what that's going to tell you is not only are you likely going to be behind on the year, you don't have enough velocity in the business to make up. So you're never going to hit plan, in that case. Something needs to change drastically. And, the two areas I've written on this in other blogs, but the two areas you could probably impact the fastest are number of open opportunities, so finding opportunities, and then secondly, your win rate. Those are probably the two fastest things to impact. Average deal size and sales cycle length are a little bit harder to impact, but sales velocity is a nice little gut check for you. Third metric you want to keep an eye on is opportunity creation. So this would be the number of opportunities you're creating in a month. Let's take an example. Let's say we have a $1.2 million target. Let's assume that half of that's going to come from new customer and half of it comes from existing customer. So on the new customer deals, let's say my average deal size is $50,000. To hit $600,000, I need to close 12 deals. But if my win rate's 25%, that means to get 12 deals closed, I need 48 opportunities. 48 opportunities in the year over 12 months gives me 4 opportunities a month. So I get a sense of how many opportunities I need to be creating in a month. So if I'm right now only creating 2 opportunities in a month, then I need to change something in my business. I need to find more opportunities, change my win rate. It ties back to that sales velocity kind of question, right? So in opportunity creation, you typically want to look month over month. So you want to see what your trending is. You want to be able to compare that to target. And you also want to start tracking a little bit around attribution. Now, attribution can be really misleading, so don't go crazy on it. But generally what you want to track is the last touch attribution. So what is the reason that opportunity became an opportunity when it did? Which is different than first touch or middle touch attribution. And again, don't go crazy on it. But what you typically want to be able to do with opportunity creation is do more of the same things that are driving results. So the more data you have to look at, the better. The other one you want to look at is win rate. Again, ties back to sales velocity, but win rate is crucially important. A lot of companies don't calculate this correctly or hide the number. And I'll explain what I mean in a quick sec. So win rate is very simply the number of closed won opportunities. That is when you click the win button in your CRM system, when that opportunity closes, it's closed as 1 versus when you click the lost button. So how many deals did you win over the total number of deals that are won and closed? Now, why this number can mislead you is I've seen this countless times with customers. They don't close opportunities as lost. So they may have opportunities that have been in the system for 400 days. Those opportunities are likely never going to close. If your average sales cycle is 120 days and you have a 400-day opportunity still sitting there, you're just lying to yourself. That opportunity needs to be closed. But if you don't close the opportunity, your win rate is kind of suggesting that it's stronger than it is, right? Because if you were to close that opportunity, that's going to knock your win rate down. You want to compare win rates against your regions, your products, your sales reps, the industries you're selling into, new versus existing. Win rates aren't the same. So, for example, a simple example, your win rate, let's say for new customer logos, is going to be 25%. Well, the win rate on existing customers is going to be well north of 50%, right? You can also look at it by attribution source. So typically, you'll know that referral win rates are much greater than, let's say, cold call attribution. So deals that are attributed from a cold call, when you're coming in colds, typically have a lower win rate than a referral deal. Or you may have reps that have varying win rates. You have a junior rep versus senior rep type of thing. Or regions, you're really strong in the US, but really weak in Germany, that kind of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the activity that drives opportunity creation. A metric you want to keep an eye on is certainly meetings booked. So if the deal's coming in from the website and you have a qualification process and you're booking a meeting, or if it's coming in from a cold call or an outbound sequence and you book a meeting, how many meetings are you booking? Compare month over month, and then you want to compare your booked to completed. So how many were no-shows? And then you also want to compare how many meetings does it take to be completed to create an opportunity. Those are attrition kind of metrics you want to keep an eye on. And then the very last metric you want to look at is sales activity. So you want to look at the number of phone calls, the number of LinkedIn touches, the number of manual emails, the personalized emails. I mean, you can also track emails, automated emails that are going out. Sales activity is a great indicator of future success. If you've got a sales team that isn't putting in the miles, and the odds of being able to impact your opportunity creation is going to be pretty low. But if you have a team that is driving sales activity, your opportunity creation is going to be very, very high. So there's a direct correlation between activity and opportunity creation. Now, so these are probably the most important sales metrics that I would be keeping an eye on. Ideally, you would have a system that was able to, show you kind of these metrics in graphical, visual ways. Here's TekStack's Power BI dashboards for funnel creation, sales velocity, win-loss analysis. So here you can get your win rates, and you can analyze your win rates by industry, country, source, product, sales rep. Sales activity. So what is your sales activity? Who's driving the volumes by activity type? You can do that kind of stuff too. Obviously sales leaderboards, all that kind of stuff. So ideally, you can get at this information very, very easily. And again, if you're able to do that systematically without doing gymnastics in your spreadsheets and have questionable data that's driving these metrics. So if you can do this without any human intervention, your company will be worth a premium, right? Because the people who are eventually going to do due diligence in your business, they're going to see, these guys have the tools in place. I can trust their data. There's a lot of integrity here. They've got everything buttoned down. Kind of related, but the next thing as a owner you're going to want to do, if you separate yourself from sales, your sales VP, if you have one. So if your move was to hire a sales rep, there's still going to probably be some sales management jobs that you need to do. But even if you hired a sales VP, not all sales VPs come from an operational background. There's no point in making your sales VP an operational leader if their strengths are elsewhere, i.e. closing deals, knocking down doors, that kind of stuff. But very, very quickly, you got to make sure that the funnel you're looking at has good integrity and it's clean, because that funnel is going to drive your cash forecast down the road, and it's going to tell you whether or not you're on track or off track as a business. So let's say you're planning to hire 5 people next month. Well, if you're not going to hit your numbers, is it smart to hire those 5? Or you put yourself in a cash crunch in 6 months, that kind of stuff. So the funnel is because it is bookings are basically future contracted revenue. You really want to make sure you're looking at good stuff. These are some tips that will tell you whether or not you've got any red flags hiding in your funnel. And the funnel should be reviewed I would say weekly. You could say monthly, but it should be reviewed periodically and maybe even ideally as a team. And we talk a little bit about that later. But I would put in the rigorous structure of saying that, by Thursday night, I need to make sure that, you don't have any deals that have past due close dates. I want to make sure all your opportunities are in the right stages, next actions, all that kind of stuff is well defined. But typically the red flags that you're going to run into include the lack of next action, last action activity, lack of engagement on the buyer's end, single threading. You're not working all the different contacts on an opportunity. Forrester suggests that 2/3 of B2B deals are made in buying groups of 3 or more buyers. So if you're only tracking one buyer, then obviously you have 2 buyers that could maybe kill your deal. So you want to find out where you're at with all the buyers. Lack of narrative information. I see this a lot with sellers. They don't actually know what the business pain is. And if you don't know what the business pain or the desired outcome is, you'll never be able to sell value. It'll be impossible. And that's usually established very, very early. It's very hard to get that information late. But when there's a lack of narrative information anywhere other than the person's head, and if they're trying to work 20, 30 deals at a time, they're going to get outsold by the competition every single time. Not identifying incumbent system or competitors, not adding products to the opportunity. So we see this as well. The opportunity is $100,000. Well, what are you selling? How many of them? At what price? When you don't have that level of definition, that tends to say you're far away from being able to close a deal. Because most buyers want to be able to have a quote in front of them that is defining exactly what it is they're buying. The aging of opportunities, like you see this all the time as well. Opportunities staying open that are 300 days old, 200 days old, and if your average sales cycle is 90 days, those deals will never close. And you shouldn't be using the funnel as a placeholder or flag planter for future activity. Like, I'm going to have a deal with these guys in a couple of years. I need to keep it as an opportunity to remind myself that I should follow up on them. No, there's other ways to do that. You don't need to do it by creating an opportunity. It's going to skew everything. It's going to distract the company. The funnel should be pure. And then the other thing is opportunity stuck in stages, especially the first stage where you create that opportunity and then nothing happens on it. If it's stuck in the first stage for as many days as the opportunity has been alive, it's not an opportunity. It's never going to close. Just get rid of it. Or if it's stuck in, let's say, the win stage, that tells you a lot. Like, for example, if it's in contracts for 6 months, it tells you a lot. Like maybe you got to give up some friction on your contract process, or need to get a little bit faster at turning documents or InfoSec or whatever. So this is really enlightening stuff, and you're going to want to get a handle on this the further away you get from the business. So I'll show you TekStack again. You can have your own CRM system. I'm just going to show you how it is we deal with it in TekStack. I'm looking at an opportunity here. Little things like you do want to see presence of narrative, so current situation, customer need, all that kind of stuff. Ideally, you're going to see products added to the opportunity that calculates, basically, if you see here, it calculates recurring revenue separated by services revenue. Want to be able to see which stakeholders are in on the deal. So in this case, we have 3 stakeholders on the deal. See what competitors we have on the deal. Sales velocity, how old is the deal? It's been in current stage for 128 days, not a great showing. I can explain it, boss. There's a reason why that is for this one. How old the opportunity is, all that kind of stuff. And, this is meta information, but basically how many days in each stage. And this becomes really interesting over time as well, because you can see where your deals are slowing down. if you're tracking this stuff accurately. We also, track how many days an opportunity was in the first stage, and then how many times a primary contact is emailed in the past month. Again, really useful information that you want to have available. And then I've written other stuff on forecasting, but I would strongly recommend using qualitative forecast category, qualitative-based forecasting methods versus quantitative probability-based forecasting methods. But again, that's in another video and another blog. But most CRMs have the ability to track either. I would say from a business process standpoint, for B2B technology, you want to use a qualitative forecasting method. All right, sales coaching. So the last thing that one of the last things I would touch on here is sales coaching. So when you separate yourself as a founder and you're separating yourself from sales, you're going to want to help the sellers. The first thing I would do is establish a call planning framework. So if they are booking meetings, you want to make sure that they are doing the right research. So if a discovery meeting is 30 minutes, you probably want to do about a half hour to an hour research on the buyer and the company. Now, AI tools will help immensely with this. There's lots of, it doesn't matter, you can pick your poison. There's a lot of great tools, Copilot or other, that allow you to do this kind of research. You can do like a 10Q analysis on a Fortune 500 company that's public. You can get a lot of industry analysis done very quickly. There's lots of resources out there. LinkedIn is a great resource as well. There's lots of things you can do to prepare for a meeting, but I would definitely put a framework in. We generally put our frameworks in OneNote, and then we have the following questions, and they just need to make sure that they go through all these questions in advance of a call, and make sure that discipline's put in there. The next thing is storytelling. People in sales, generally, sellers are going to have more success when they can relate to who it is they're selling to. And storytelling is a great way to do this. CEOs will have tons of stories. What the seller needs to do is take one or two. They don't need 10. They don't need 5. They need 1 or 2 stories that they'll tell over and over again. And you want to practice those stories and make that part of their pitch, part of the deck, part of the sales process. And this should be practiced in a group. So what I would recommend is for the CEO to go out and record these stories, and then have the sellers practice telling the stories as though they were their own, or relating it from the founder or owner's perspective. Discovery questions, again, for each industry or buyer you sell into, you should have discovery questions. Again, we just stick ours in a OneNote, and then that becomes a great place where you can keep them. Objection handling, same thing. Both of those things should be practiced. Not with your seasoned rep, with your new reps though. You want to make sure that you probably on a I'd say bi-weekly basis knock through each objection. Or pick an objection and try to knock through it and get them to practice it, and also practice discovery. Standardized follow-up, we call it an alignment letter. We have an alignment letter format. If the seller can't fill out an alignment letter, it means they've done a bad job in discovery and call planning. So for me, I love the standardized follow-ups in the form of an alignment letter, because it's the litmus test as to whether or not I've actually done my job as a seller. Did I get the right information? Am I able to relate my value to their problems? And the last thing is deal coaching. I would definitely make room as an owner, founder, for deal coaching. I would, in a group every week, pick a deal from the funnel, one that maybe looks a little bit smelly, doesn't look too good, and just beat it up. If a seller can't handle it, they're probably in the wrong job. Sellers need to take feedback constructively, otherwise they're never going to grow. And deal coaching is a great opportunity to exercise some of the thinking that a seller needs to do on a deal. What is deal coaching? Do you have a trigger event? Who are your competitors? What are your weaknesses to their strengths? All of the buyers who are making a decision, what level of influence do they have? What is the performance outcome, performance metric, or the outcome of this from this project? How do they get measured? Do they want you? Are they a coach? That kind of stuff. Building that out, you'll inevitably unlock opportunities to push your deal forward. Okay, and then the beauty is if you do these deal coaching sessions as a group, everybody can learn from them, and everybody will get better on the next deal. Ride-alongs, I originally hated them because I felt they were like, I had a team of 20 reps, and if I was doing a ride-along with every rep, my entire day would be ride-alongs. And I thought, well, the real measure of me as a sales leader is that my team can do these without me. It's not true. They generally can't, and they'll never get better unless you're with them. So I would recommend doing a ride-along with every rep, at least monthly. A ride-along is simply a four-legged sales call where you're just accompanying them. I can't underscore how much value there is in that process for two reasons. One, you're going to be able to provide constructive feedback, but probably more importantly, unfortunately, is that the rep will prepare for the calls or meetings better because they know you're coming along. Now, if you can't do the ride-alongs, at least record your calls. Conversational intelligence, or whatever they call it these days, it's dime a dozen. There's a million tools that are near free. You don't need, Gong or any of these expensive tools to do any of these kind of analyses. Not at the size of company that we're talking about here. Just record the calls, see how they're going, review the transcripts, maybe note a call that's gone well. Transcripts are great for that kind of stuff, and review calls with the team. It's very simple, but again, you'll be surprised how impactful ride-alongs are. If you're constraining your business, it's probably opportunities, because you're going to win at least 25% of the ones that come to you. So opportunities are the most important thing in your business. And if you can move your win rate from 25% to 30%, that is a massive increment on your business. It's not 5%, it's 20% increment on your business. So you definitely want to focus on winning more of your deals, and a lot of that can be done just in sales execution. And the ride-alongs will uncover a lot of gaps and things where your team can improve, and also connect you to the market, because you might be feeling a little distanced with your team in place. So I think that's it. Anyways, TekStack, we're a software company. We provide a platform to help B2B technology companies scale. Most of our customers are sub 100 employee businesses. We really focus on being able to find you more funnel, win more deals, retain more customers, and essentially drive higher profitability. There's a bunch of ways that we handle that from within our tool. But the other thing we've noticed is a lot of companies could really help with either team augmentation or team enablement. So we have a series of managed services, from marketing to sales to customer success to PMO or project delivery, related in making your team stronger. And in one of the areas that we focus are the things that we identified in this video. So if you ever need help, if you want to discuss more, just give us a shout. I'd love to learn more about your business.